And perfect. Can you make that, hit the got it button and make that go away?
Good, you're lucky.
Yeah. Just the touch screen. Okay, thank you. Great, welcome everybody. This is the special meeting, June 15th of the town board to review the draft zoning law. And I'm going to start with we've been discussing the water overlay district, and specific the main thing is the riparian buffers. So I invited Jean Foley from the DEC to join us tonight, and she did. She's here remotely. And just to clarify, I thought it'd be helpful if she could clarify for us the DEC, what the DEC regulates around streams. So Jesse, can you enable actually I'll make Jean a co-host so then she can appear and everything. Great.
Hi, it looks like I'm unmuted, but I can't hear anything. I'm going to have to go and find a different pair of headphones.
Oh, okay. We'll hang on and wait for you. It's on your end, huh? I guess, yeah, you can't hear anything, so never mind.
You could message her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jessica.
Yeah.
I think she just left.
If all else fails, and she's still audible, then I'll chat her to ask her to give us the information.
I don't know what
She
you
can't.
didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hmm?
You didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if that
well,
matters.
we can do that if you want.
We could do that.
Meeting started, so I'm gonna
Okay.
hang
Yeah,
on
I know.
here.
That's fine.
Oops.
Is that her?
Almost.
Hi, can people hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Can-
yay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, finally. I had to
Oh.
go find an old pair of iPhone headphones to make this work.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome, Jean. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. So, you know, we've been the zoning commission and now the town board, you know, we're working on the water protections. And one question that's come up repeatedly is what the how the DEC regulates the, you know, what the expanse is and what they do around streams. And we're considering both perennial and intermittent streams. So I thought it would be great if we could hear from you on what the DEC does in regard to stream protection.
Okay, well, first of all, the streams are classified and the protections will vary depending upon the stream classification. For example, quite a bit of 6 Mile Creek is Class A because it drains into the Ithaca Reservoir. And then some of it is CT and maybe or AT and CT. I have to look up my map. I have a map on my GIS program that has all the stream classifications, and actually the public can get those same classifications on the DEC website. There's a tool called Environmental Resource Mapper, and it's a mapping tool, and you can use it to check stream class or wetland locations. So on streams that we protect, so we protect any stream that's A, B, or any stream that has a parenthetic T after it for trout. So AT, BT, and CT. And then streams that are just simply C are only protected if they fit our definition of navigability. And I did pull up the definitions in the regulations, if that's something you want me to read, or I can send a link to it, I think, to you folks, or maybe I could even share. I might be able to share my screen.
Okay, yeah, you have sharing capabilities right now.
Okay,
So if you'd
let
like
me
to do that.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, this is, can you see it's 608.1 definitions.
Okay,
So this gives you the definition of banks and bed. Those are, I think, some of the things that people from Caroline have been asking me about.
okay.
And let's see. Navigable waters of the state means all lakes, rivers, streams, and other bodies of water in the state that are navigable in fact, or upon which vessels with a capacity of one or more persons can be operated, notwithstanding interruptions to navigation by artificial structures, shallows, rapids, or other obstructions, or by seasonal variations in capacity to support navigation. Does not include waters that are surrounded by land held in a single private ownership at every point in their total area. So ponds that have more than one landowner would be regulated by the DEC under the navigable waters definition, and streams that have enough flow that they could support a canoe or a kayak at least some of the year or a good portion of the year would also be considered navigable.
Okay.
Even if it's just like 10 feet, I mean, doesn't really go anywhere. I thought it had to be used for trade to be navigable.
That's the federal definition. The state definition is a little different. So it has to be deep enough that it can float a kayak or a canoe, and not just one day a year or immediately after a big storm or something like that. It needs to be able to Fall Creek, sections of Fall Creek are a pretty good example of that. There's sections there. And I don't know about tubing. I don't know if tubing counts. I don't know if you'd call a tube a vessel, but anyway, that's the navigable definition. And so navigable waters are only regulated to the mean high water level. And that's a level that we determine by looking characteristics on the bank, or in certain situations, there's actual published elevation for mean high water. Those are generally the larger lakes, the Finger Lakes and such. And I think the main question that I've been getting has been about banks. So for any stream that we regulate for the protection of waters, so that would be the class A's, B's, and C's with a T, or any other combination with a T. We regulate to the top of bank. If the bank is sloped 45 degrees or greater. So bank means the land area immediately adjacent to which slopes towards the bed of a water course, which is necessary to maintain the integrity of a water course. For purposes of this part, a bank will not be considered to extend more than 50 feet horizontally from the mean high water line, with the following exception: where a generally uniform slope of 45 degrees, which is 100% slope, or greater adjoins the bed of the water course. There's a typo there. The bank is extended to the crest of the slope or the first definable break-in slope, either natural or constructed. So like a road or railroad grade are the examples they give here, and lying generally parallel to the water course. So I don't know if you have questions about how we look at that. There are a lot of streams in Caroline that have steep banks, and so our jurisdiction goes to the top of the bank or the first break-in slope. There are areas on some of those streams, and there are other streams that have a less sloped bank, and then our jurisdiction would be measured from the mean high water level in a line parallel to, not necessarily the ground surface, but a parallel line or a horizontal line from the mean high water line to 50 feet.
Okay.
Parallel or perpendicular?
Not perpendicular, because these are the flatter slopes. So it's not exactly parallel to the slope, because the slope is the slope would be like the hypotenuse of a triangle, and this would be more like the base of a triangle.
Okay.
Oh. So if the slope is less than 45 degrees, that's how it works. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. And if it's greater than 45, it's the first break in slope.
Right. Or the top of bank. Usually, if you go to first break in slope, it's some of those really longer, steep banks that I'm trying to think of an example where you'd have a break in slope. I can't really think of one in Caroline. So I think once you get down into Brooktondale, the banks are pretty steep.
So those, so just to clarify, so those, yeah. So when those banks get to the top, is that where you regulate to, or?
Yes, unless you can look at it and see that there's a break in slope. So if the bank goes up quite steep, but it might be only 25 feet horizontal, but then the bank changes its slope and becomes quite almost flat or less flat, then we would just go to that break in slope.
Oh, okay. Great, that's helpful.
I mean,
Yep.
I'm thinking of Boyer Creek along just east of Ecros Road. Seems like it does that. It's flat on one side, the other side is really steep. It goes up quite well, but
Yeah.
Bruce, you have a question?
Yeah, on navigable waters, that last sentence on navigable waters, could you go back to that?
Sure.
I didn't quite understand what that meant.
Okay, so you mean like a pond or a lake with multiple landowners around the perimeter of it?
No, that last sentence said it does not include waters that are surrounded by land held in single private ownership.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what she was saying. If it's in
Yeah.
single, yeah, that
Yep.
would not be.
So
So-
that's,
Right, 'cause you're not
so
going.
even a stream,
No, it's a
No,
pond.
this is just like for a
It's a
pond
Stream
or a lake.
on the ends,
I was gonna say, it should say.
unless you owned a lot of the stream.
All of it.
Yeah,
Some people
the whole
do.
thing, yeah.
I was wondering, because it kind of, it didn't say pond. Seems-
I know, you know that? I see that isn't clear there. That's the way that we have interpreted that. I don't think we've ever come across somebody that's owned a whole stream.
I
Um,
don't own the whole stream, but I own from the beginning of the stream, probably 3/4 of the length to the main stream.
yeah.
So.
No, I, for the streams and I'm 99% sure that this particular sentence doesn't really means the streams. It's more trying to get at ponds, like farm ponds, generally are all owned by one, one person owns the whole pond, and those DEC doesn't regulate. But some of these larger ponds, and I can't think of any examples in Caroline, but there are other ponds and people might have some camps or cottages here or there on them. They're smaller ponds, but they have multiple landowners, as the DEC regulates those.
Just saying, you could run into a problem with that. If you look at it. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
I
Yes,
said you could run into a problem with the way that is written.
Yeah, I know. I guess the lawyers have fun with that. I have never heard of any problem with this at all.
so I guess I'll just, we're considering establishing buffers. And so
Riparian buffers.
riparian buffers, yeah, sorry. And so, yeah, and I know that the DEC recommends those. So yeah, so I'm interested in the interplay between what the DEC normally regulates and or oversees, and what a riparian buffer does.
So the DEC doesn't regulate riparian buffers unless they fall within the regulated area as defined by this regulation, Part 608.
Okay.
Riparian buffers are conservation practice. It's something that the Natural Resource Conservation Service encourages. I don't know. We're kind of getting out of the regulation part, and that's when I asked if it was okay if I could speak at this meeting. They told me that I could explain our regulations in our jurisdictional area, but not to go much beyond that.
That's great, and your answer is helpful, so thank you.
Okay, all right.
I'll just ask the board, do you have any other questions about the DEC regulations of streams?
I don't.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Jean. I know you took time out of your evening on short notice to do this for us, so I really appreciate that.
Okay, well, I hope it was of some help anyway.
It definitely
Yeah,
was.
definitely.
Yeah, it was very much a big help, so thank you.
All right, very good. Would you like a link to this regulation? I can send one via email tomorrow when I get into work.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great. And I did write down some numbers from the screen sharing too. So, but yeah, if you could send a link, that'd be awesome.
Okay, very good.
Good, cool. Thank
All
you,
right.
Jean.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, take care. Great, okay.
Huh.
So I sent out a few thoughts for the meeting to set our meeting agenda. And so the first one is one that I put out for the last meeting and neglected to put forward. So I just I think from the discussion of the board previously, we recognized that the definition of a farm operation in the zoning law is broader than New York State's definition, and there was I felt a sentiment that for the protection of waters in the overlay, it made sense to use the New York State definition, which is a little narrower. I don't think it's a huge difference, but anyway. So I'll offer a motion to revise page 67, 5.3.G.2 accordingly. And that's actually 69, I think. Page 69. So anyway, oh no, it isn't. It is 67. Sorry. So it's for the first bullet point, which said activities part of any agricultural operation. So I propose to revise that as activities part of a farm operation as defined by New York State and that are within an agricultural district.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second for seconded by Cal? So now discussion, any discussion or should I just call for a vote? Or any questions?
Nope.
Okay,
Pretty clear why you did.
okay. Cool, I'll call for a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Great. Okay, motion to, and I will, we did designate tonight to talk about the uses, and we're going to be doing that after we consider these few points. So motion 2 is to simplify buffer widths as perpendicular distances or regardless of slope or habitat. And so that would be 100 foot, as from what we've said before, 100 feet for perennial streams, 75 feet in hamlets, and 50 feet for intermittent streams, which we agreed to last time. So then this would require revision of the figures on page 68. Here are my thoughts about why I put this forward. And one is for simplification. It simplifies the recognition and measurement of a buffer. So that's in the interests of comprehension by the public and administration by the town. If wetlands are involved, they have their own buffers of 100 feet. And I also noticed that a couple other towns in the county designed theirs this way. The village of Trumansburg does include the steep slope wetland provision, but so that was my rationale. Striving for simplicity. That was my goal, and I still think it provides a good measure of protection. So
just to clarify, so
Yeah.
what this does is it eliminates the distinction between steep slope and buffer. And it's the same buffer for everything. Is that correct?
And have we seconded this? Are we just in the discussing mode here?
yeah, we're discussing without a second, which we can do, but that means it's not on the table.
Okay, so I feel that This is the bad news because it's narrowing the buffer zone quite a bit in some places. Especially if there's a gorge that drops like straight down 40 feet. You suddenly don't have a 75-foot buffer, you have a 30-foot buffer. Because it goes straight down or almost straight down, and there are a number of places like that. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with changing this. I think that the slope is really important, especially if we're talking
Okay.
about pollutant runoff and water runoff. I think there are places where it's really steep. And to just pretend it's doesn't matter, it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
That steep and that the water flow and the purpose of the buffer zone. It just shrinks the whole ability of that buffer zone. To act as a buffer zone will shrink just as the distance from the creek shrinks.
Okay. I've spoken once, so Cal.
Because I'm still just really concerned about the buffer, the riparian buffer zones with, as I see lots within the township, supposing somebody, one example I was looking at or noticing that somebody has a garage that's kind of maybe would be good if it was raised and rebuilt, and it would certainly not be enough of a setback. And just the nature of their whole lot, could they go in and rebuild that, or would they be prohibited from?
So in regard to this discussion item,
Yeah,
what is your?
if somebody wants to come in and rebuild, or maybe is lost to fire and does not apply by the riparian buffer.
So this is another discussion item, right? So I think it's a separate discussion item. So I just want to,
Okay.
and we can put that one forward after this one, or
Okay,
my own sense is, I think that would be allowed, rebuilding
okay.
for an existing structure.
It's grandfather.
Grandfather, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
and you have and if was it 75% of the lot is in the buffer zone, then they can build, right? I can't remember.
25%.
25%.
Yeah.
So they could,
But that,
they could still enlarge their garage even if it hadn't burned down. Just saying.
Okay.
If it's,
It is, did you?
Well, I guess I was maybe jumping ahead to.
Yeah, that's okay. Is that
Yeah.
your thoughts about that? Okay, Tim?
I mean, I'm generally inclined to agree with your proposal, but recognize Kate's concern about radical banks. Call them radical banks,
radical banks.
you know, which. I mean, I don't know. I mean, potentially, maybe we could have a setback for banks over 75% or something like that, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Unless that just complicates it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think the whole idea is to protect, that is to have a buffer zone and to have it functioning. And there's a
Okay.
reason for that slope because it doesn't function as well because of the water runoff. That's why the
So
slope rule is in there.
I recognize your point, and it's. In some cases, it would definitely be less. I agree with that, so, yeah.
But there's also too, in some places, the area that would be draining. It would make the whole regulation more complicated. Well, if it's draining more than a certain number of square feet, it's a certain size setback, and then if it's draining 200 acres,
Right,
or if it's draining an acre,
and I think the town of Ithaca's
has something.
got a structure like that.
Which I would be disinclined to go with on the first zoning law.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I definitely would be too. So Bruce, I'll let you ask the question, but I am gonna keep this as a board discussion, so go ahead.
Okay, I didn't want to ask a question, I was just gonna say. 6 Mile Creek, there's maybe 1% at the most that would have a steep bank. And if you looked at it, that steep bank would have runoff on the backside. Far, it wouldn't be over the steep bank. The way the lay of the land is. They would have, like the only place I can think of is from where the third dam was down to the mill. And on the backside of that, the lay of the land is considerably lower with the wetland. So the runoff is right and left, it's never to the steep bank, that's
Oh,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Well, there's gonna be runoff on both sides of the bank. I mean, there will be runoff on both sides of the bank, whether it's steep or not steep.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand Kate's point.
Sure,
Um,
it's,
I think I would just like to table this proposition, but give us another week or two to think about it.
okay,
You know, I don't want to come back to this, keep coming back to this, but this is just, I think we just need to think about it a little bit.
that's fine. And since I didn't get a second, we don't have to table
I
it.
mean, I think that the DEC presentation was interesting because as I understand it, they regulate up to the top of the bank and that's it.
Right,
Correct.
right.
And so what we would be doing would be supplementing that regulation with riparian zones.
Yes, that's what we're considering.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
and then when you get to. So we would be doing it regardless of how steep the slope was. Anyway, so in a way. The logic would have you not making this distinction so much
Mhm.
So it would just be from the top of the bank, wherever it is. Oh,
and out.
Right, as a straight.
but that means you're not counting that bank.
I know, yeah.
You're just-
Well, you wouldn't be
That would
counting,
be the top of the bank. I mean, if you have,
Well, you're not going from the stream bed, then you're starting at the top of the bank.
that's correct.
right,
That's where you're starting.
right.
Great,
Some of
okay.
this will just depend on. I mean, if the top of the bank is 25 feet in from the stream. You know, in from the edge of the stream, which it is in some places probably. Maybe not quite that much, but in some places. Then that already contributes to riparian, a certain aspect of riparian buffer zone. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I mean, maybe one of the things that we should just do from this is do some various sightings of the places where where we do have that situation.
Just
I
to
don't
get a
think there are
sense.
tons of them, you
Right.
know, most of them are probably in Brooktondale.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of where else we have some gorges in town, and I mean.
I mean, we're talking 6
Yeah.
Mile Creek, so it's pretty limited.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I would recommend that we just
Do some field
do some
truthing.
field trooping.
That's great,
We don't have to do it together, but just do some sighting and come back.
great, great. Okay,
Can I ask one question of clarification?
go ahead.
Did she not say you hit the top of the water level, if you got a steep bank, it's there, and if you got lower water level, that's from where the water is? But didn't she say there was 50 feet that they regulate? I'm sure she said they regulate 50 feet.
They, for shallower slopes.
Okay.
So,
But there's 50 foot off of that distance. That is under their control where you can't do anything in anyway.
They regulate to the top of the bank.
I think, yeah, so to the first, break in slope
Yes,
was my understanding. And then, so it's variable, but no more than 50 feet.
correct.
Right.
So that's correct. And then, just to clarify, Gene didn't want to say too much about it because it's not what, but I was asking about the rationale, which is, you know, the riparian buffers are, as she said, they're a conservation measure to, for the riparian zone. So, you know, so they have recommended, and we worked on the language for that, recommended ways that that area is vegetated and treated, so. But great, so anyway, I
Should we
agree.
move to motion 4?
Yeah.
Or motion
Or
3? Motion
Three, I think,
Three.
so we'll come back to 2 again, so. Okay, the motion, the third one is, let's see. So last time we added a 3E to prohibitions, which was, and it was gravel surfaces may not be made impervious. I think that's the language you came up with. And so I've proposed that we make this a recommendation as an added sentence to 3D, and I changed where it's placed because in this case, my language is not a prohibition. So, and I put it 3D, the current language in 3D is parking or parking lots, except in connection with activities part of a farm operation. And then what I would add, it is recommended that gravel lots and driveways not be paved. And so my reasoning was that, well, gravel surfaces, they vary in their permeability. They're, from what I've seen, they're typically classified as impervious surfaces, and then I think this gives landowners the flexibility to manage it in the way that they think best. So that was, I know it's not a requirement, it's a recommendation. And so so that's, I don't know if we want to discuss it, do we want to discuss it as a
I'll
motion?
second it. I'll second it.
Tim, seconded by Tim, okay, so what do you have
I
any?
think given the fact that a large percentage of gravel driveways are impervious,
Mhm,
it's probably not that necessary to make it a requirement
mhm,
in most cases.
Okay.
I've got a huge gravel driveway that's very, very old, and it's every bit as rock hard as asphalt.
mhm.
And the water pours down it just like it does. Just like it does. In fact, it's probably less controlled. If I had an asphalt driveway, I could probably control the drainage better,
Because you could channel it.
channel it.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm fine with this.
Cal?
No, I'm fine with it, just saying that, you know, just as a recommendation. I don't know, you want to keep it impervious. You want to keep it porous if possible, but to have a prohibition on blacktopping.
Okay,
I don't see the point in having the recommendation in.
Period.
No, I mean, I do
Yeah.
wanna point out that this is a show and tell here. This is a parking lot in Corning that's been abandoned for 20 years. And it would look very different if it had been gravel after 20 years. And that's why I'm not happy about that is, that it's okay in the buffer zones to put blacktop on without the ability, it lessens the ability to grow anything, to be used for something else, move it out after it's broken up. But that's all I'm gonna say, and I'll drop it. I don't see the point in recommending. It's just added words. If you're leaving it up to people, I just don't see why it would be in the zoning document at all.
yes, I will respond to that quickly. I mean, our site plan review law has design guidelines, which are recommendations. I don't think it harms anything to have it in there. I mean, it's not,
I just
it's not a
Makes sense.
regulation, but
I would be inclined to have a friendly amendment. And said, it is recommended that. Lots and driveways. Be pervious. Which is what
Mhm.
the ideal situation would be.
Okay, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Maybe they'll come up with a pervious pavement that's affordable. That would be nice.
Yeah.
There is pervious pavement.
Yeah.
That's true. There is.
So should we take a vote on
Yeah.
that, just to move it along?
Mhm.
There's a pervious sidewalk at DeWitt Middle School, so. I like that. I will consider that friendly.
Talking about all,
We need,
talking about all areas in the town.
No,
No, the
only the
riparian
buffers.
buffer, just in the buffer.
only the buffers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only the buffer.
Just one.
Yep, no. Cal,
Yeah, that's fine.
good, everybody, okay. I
Take a
will,
vote, take an
I'll take a
actual
vote, okay.
Just
All in-
reread it to refresh my memory.
Oh, reread it to refresh your memory? Okay, so now this new 3D will say parking or parking lots except in connection with activities, part of a farm operation. It is recommended that lots and driveways be pervious. That was
Within-
Tim's language.
Within the,
This whole thing's in the
Within the buffer.
riparian.
right,
It's-
yeah. but
it's
I
in
guess
there.
I'd like it to say it.
So, well, let's see where it,
It's in the section. that's-
Yeah, it's in that section, okay.
yeah.
It's under
It's-
the riparian.
it's-
Section, so it's
Yeah.
covered.
It's in the riparian buffer.
It's right here. So the beginning of that 3 says the following activities are prohibited in the buffer area. That's a standalone sentence, and then A, B, C, D, and then D would be parking or parking lots except in connection with an agricultural or farm operation. And then it is recommended that lots and driveways be pervious.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Okay.
Call for a vote. Did I vote yet?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh,
All right.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Okay. So that's tonight's, any other considerations for the
Riparian?
water overlay?
Nope.
I just think we should mull over this and come back to it.
Right, that's on our to-do
Yeah.
list there.
I mean, I'm also trying to think of other, because I live in Brooksondale, so it's just, thinking the gorge and stuff, but I'd like to
Yeah.
look at other parts of the town and see if.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you
Yeah,
could
because
help
you-
me, Cal, identify some places if there are any.
But I mean, you're thinking, they're next to DeBoer's and stuff, up through there where it's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's really
it's really
It's a
straight down,
canyon.
right,
Yeah.
and it's good.
So we didn't think, yeah, okay,
there where the old mill was, the other side,
Mhm.
there in front of your house and. up
Well,
through-
also, further up and.
Yeah,
just.
then it kind of levels out and then it gets,
Yeah, I was just sitting with somebody in their back garden and, they've got a switchback path going down way
yeah.
to the creek.
so there's, yeah, okay.
So, yeah, do that.
Tim, do you want
Yeah,
to
if you can think of.
move the next motion?
Yeah,
Or-
Yeah, so, sorry, my notes just went away.
and then there's like.
So, what I wanna do is-
Wait, that's where I was sitting.
Let me see if I can get your email back work.
What exactly are they doing there? I've tried
There we
to
go.
catch Bob on it.
Oh.
And I just, sometimes, well, anyway.
Well, let me see if I can find my email to you guys. That would be easier.
I have what I printed here.
I-
Oh, you do?
Right here.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
number 4, I think, so.
Yeah, so motion 4, this takes us to the use tables. Which is, starts on page 43.
Yeah.
But actually, it starts on page 41.
Yep.
And basically what I'd like to consider is some reconsiderations of uses. What happened with the zoning commission is that it made a number of significant use changes after the public hearing within the scope of about 2 to 3 weeks. And a lot of them ended up opening up areas that had been previously targeted as residential to significant commercial development. And I would like to reconsider some of those changes in relationship to the public hearing document in the
Okay.
post, and I've got specific recommendations. And the best way to do that would probably just be to go use by use. So the first
Table,
first question that I have has concerns farm brewery, farm winery, cidery and distillery, which is on page 42.
Okay, thank you.
And those are permitted everywhere.
Okay,
And I guess my question is whether we would want to permit breweries and wineries and distilleries in heavily residential areas. And that would be primarily impacting Bessemer, West Sliderville, and probably Central Brooktondale. The challenge of that, and by brewery and winery and distillery, what we're talking about are commercial businesses that make these products. We're not talking about a store selling beer.
Right.
We're talking actually about distillation and larger commercial procedures. And so I found myself questioning whether those would be appropriate in the more targeted residential areas.
You've got a good point. I mean, because that means, I mean, I can't imagine, you need space to have a winery, you need big barns and vats and, I just can't imagine in the hamlets.
Well, when we get to the schedule of areas and dimensions, there are some new recommended areas and dimensions that could potentially even permit such a thing, but we can deal with that later.
Okay.
But this seems to me more to be an issue of appropriate use in targeted residential areas. And one good change that was made by the zoning commission, to my recollection at the end, is that had previously, I think, not been permitted in ag, which didn't make any sense. And that was changed somewhere along the line. I can't remember what it was, but it
Well,
was
it
changed.
should be allowed in ag.
No, of course, yeah.
yeah.
It says farm
Yeah.
brewery, farm. winery.
So was it previously just allowed in the focus commercial? Is that the idea?
No, I think it had been, I don't remember exactly, but that was a looser category. It's just in reviewing all of this, of course, I sat in the zoning commission the entire time and never said anything, but in reviewing this, there are a couple of things that popped out that didn't make complete sense to me.
If we just took them,
So let's see.
So my recommendation would be X under Hamlet Bessemer, X Hamlet West Sliderville. And I would say X Central Brookendale.
What about the other hamlets?
Well, it just depends if we want uniform or variation depending upon the nature of the hamlets. So as the zoning commission defined Hamlet Brooktondale, which are the extensions away from the center of Brooktondale.
the Center Brooktondale is pretty center. It's just
Yeah,
the market and the old
Right,
post
right.
office right down there.
and
right?
the reason that they did that is because they recognized the potential for commercial development
Mhm,
in the spurs. Especially because there is quite a bit at one end.
mhm.
At Mid-Isle. There. Hmm.
And of course, you would want it to permit it focus commercial.
Right. Well,
And
focus commercials, you think
the-
that's-
The thinking of the zoning commission for Sladeville Spring was always looser. Because Sladeville Springs has a history,
Of a commercial.
a strong history of mixed use. And that made a lot of sense. And what the aim of the comprehensive plan, the articulation of the comprehensive plan, which guides all of this,
Mhm,
is to target and shape residential growth
mhm.
in certain areas to allow it to develop unimpeded while protecting business and commercial in other areas. So it just that's just my thinking in looking at this.
Yeah, so why not like an SUP, like for the hamlet of Brookendale or,
Or you could easily do that.
because then it can be looked at and,
Yep,
talk about, well, how big is it gonna be and,
Yeah, because I mean, even on size, just a split, is it? Farm brewery or cidery could be a significant,
it could be big,
it could be big
It
or it
could be
could
small.
not be big.
right?
not
It
big.
could be
A brewery.
somebody's little barn out back, or
Yeah,
it
The
could be,
distillery could be small,
yeah,
I
Yeah.
know somebody that
Right.
has a small cheese plant in the back of their house.
right?
cheesemakers,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I just
Okay,
think,
yeah.
it could be,
Right.
or it
Right.
could be a
That's-
big thing that, leaves
Right.
quite a
Right,
footprint.
right,
You can just see why I brought this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely get it.
okay, so if it has a special use permit review and approval by the review board, and then there's also gonna be some control about size, right, in the,
That's a different.
that's a different issue, but I'm just thinking
Yes,
if that's,
yes,
Because in some things we do have, size,
Right.
small
right,
versus large.
right, right. So Kate, are you suggesting special use in some places as opposed to
Permitted.
yeah.
not permitted in some places?
No, I was thinking that the not permitted was fine, that I was thinking the hamlet of Brookendale, maybe that would be a special use. Permit.
So the proposed changes then would be Sun Hamlet Bessemer. X on West Sladeville,
Mhm.
SUP, Brookendale.
And the X on Hamlet Center Brookendale. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you said that. earlier.
Yes, yes,
And then Caroline Center, Caroline and Speedsville, it's
I could see those
permitted?
being SUP
I could see that being an SUP,
Yeah.
yeah,
and keeping P in ag, rural and focus commercial.
okay. So we've got P and ag rural. Sladeville Springs. And then focus commercial,
But why couldn't it be farm brewery, farm cidery, farm distillery? Why couldn't it just be called a farm market? And those are all pre-meeted site plan reviews.
Because I think that they were targeting the nature of alcohol production specifically,
Yeah,
which is its own different thing.
yeah,
It's quite a bit different from farm.
yeah, because you have to have you have to have a permit.
I think these changes make sense.
So just to review, it would be P ag rural, X Bessemer's Hamlet,
Correct.
SUP Hamlet Sladeville.
Oh, okay, I didn't get that one.
I mean, it makes sense if we're gonna do the SUPs and the other X. Hamlet West Sladeville. SUP Caroline Center, SUP Brooktondale,
Okay.
X Center Brooktondale. And P Focus Commercial.
Okay.
So I guess we need a second.
Well, still hasn't gotten seconded?
Oh, I'll second.
Oh, yeah, okay. Kate seconded it.
Yep.
Cal, did you have a?
I just don't like Xing out
Which one?
Bessemer or West Sladeville, you know, I'd go along with SUP. But it seems like if somebody's gonna wanna do something like that, or somebody's, it would just be. I don't think we're impinging on, in my mind, that residential. An area.
Breweries can get awfully, fragrant. You know, Guinness Brewery in downtown Dublin.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see that scale here,
I
but.
hope not. Yeah,
I think of something more like the cider place up on 89 Bellwether.
Mm.
You know, it's just kind of a old barn type structure.
yeah, but it, yeah, and it's out in. Yeah, but it's not in a residential area particularly.
No, not there. I just, you know, I just thinking, trying to think of something size wise and what.
Well, we got the winery up. You know, on the way into Ithaca,
6 Mile Creek.
6 Mile Creek, yeah. Winery,
Yeah,
That's like a rural area. Okay. Bruce, do you have a question?
Yeah, does the square footage, doesn't that
We're-
regulate
Yeah.
what
It could-
size could be?
Right,
in
that's-
those?
It could, we haven't looked at that yet, but.
we got that.
We're talking about use, we're talking about use, not size.
Right,
yeah, we're talking about it. I mean, I can certainly,
we're gonna go there.
it seems to me it'd be, if there was something else similar to 6 Mile Creek Winery on farther on out 79, it seems to me that would be an asset. You know, place kind of like a bar, you know, serve some food, have some entertainment, I think so.
And
I think that would could be an asset. I'd like to see something like that, not, you know, not prohibited, but say, okay, well, what's your proposal?
But I guess I just, you know. What I'm trying to think about is, you know, what fits in each designated district or hamlet or whatever, so. And maybe it does, and so, I don't know,
I mean, to my mind, it fits.
okay. Becky, did you have a
To
comment?
yours or Tim's, it might not, I just,
Okay,
and that's fine.
okay,
I just-
I was gonna speak under privilege of the floor.
yeah, that's why I didn't put that on the agenda for tonight, so,
Right, no, that's perfectly fine. I realize that historic character is not a dimension in the zoning plan. I totally get that. West Clearville is one of the most historic areas in town. I mean, there is a historic marker near Carol Barrett's house about when the town was actually formed in 1811 there. But if you look at the houses too, it is a fragment of the neighborhood that is in absolutely beautiful condition from preserving the historic character. You look at Mary Hart B&B, and you look at Penny Farm, and you look at
okay, sure.
the White Creek Revival across the road and Ed Sorrell's house. That whole area is just wonderful, and from my point of view, what that's put next to it across Ellis Hollow is important. So I'm sorry, I know historic character is not part of all this, but I needed to just say it. Sorry.
Okay,
And what a surprise.
understood that, I mean, yeah. Thank you.
And I'll just say that I would always anticipate that the review board would have that in mind when they're talking about particular projects anyway.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Yeah, I mean, they should
emphasized
talk
by the,
about the
it is
character.
emphasized by the comprehensive plan.
Right, and it's, yeah. I mean, that's part of the discussion is we want it to remain residential, we want it to remain mixed use, right? We don't want people to feel like they don't want a house next to something because of, you know, a huge thing being built with the lights and the trucks and the noise and, you know, we want the hamlets to remain, you know, residential. So,
They're each a little bit unique, so.
but again, as Bruce was saying, I want to look at the size.
Right.
So, just looking at them.
So
Are we ready
are we
to
ready to vote on this?
make a,
I mean, the size is a separate issue
Okay, how's it a separate issue?
because we have size dimensions.
yeah,
There's size dimensions for each district.
But if I know that
Separate
there's
issue.
the size. Okay,
The commercial size dimensions for each district,
okay.
so that'll be 4.2.
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
Look at that, so,
And by the time we go through the use table, we'll be in a better position to understand
The size,
the implication, the size,
so it's like a double range,
right?
a double what?
range.
double rain,
And we can always go
Right.
back, I mean, we can always go back.
they don't hurt us.
Yeah, so I could go either way, like SUP with a size thing or. For the two, what, three, we've got
The three X's,
three,
we've got the Hamlet, center of Hamlet. Kismer and West Sladeville as X's. And the others are with the subs.
You know, one of the things that just to consider as we go through this is how the tilt and balance is between potentially commercial and potentially residential,
Mhm,
which is
that's true,
the reason that I'm bringing up some of these revisions. Insofar as
Mhm,
it's easy to say, let's do this everywhere. And what we're doing is we're providing a roadmap for development
mhm,
in certain areas of town, so the flags that you put up now are the flags that are gonna be there. So what I'm proposing that we do is hone in a little bit more on these residential hubs
mhm,
to
Mhm.
set that precedent in a way. Because, you know, and on all this use table, I mean, all of these things are not gonna happen,
No,
you know, it's
No.
not all gonna happen.
right,
But it does have to do with the balance of what kind of character.
Right, and so,
is
like-
designated.
this occurred to me, like looking at Danby's zoning law, I think it was Danby's, but so they have residential hamlets and then like
Hmm.
another designation like, you know, mixed use or
Hamlets.
something like that, so.
Well,
That's
all of our
kind of what you're
hamlets
talking
are
about.
actually mixed use.
Right,
It's just the question is gonna be,
Is
how
the
next,
balance.
Yeah.
what's the balance, what's the tilt?
Hmm.
And realizing that this is not home businesses, so this is, what we're looking at here are commercial operations, they're not home businesses, which are allowed everywhere.
so like a greenhouse.
So you can have a
nursery.
home bakery, you can have a home business bakery for sure,
Yeah, and you could have a home business greenhouse,
right?
right,
Of course.
okay.
You have home business brewery.
You could have a home
Yeah.
business brewery, you can. So this, these designations are imagining larger entities.
Mhm.
Or more focused commercial entities.
Well, I'm comfortable
I'm-
with where we're at.
I'm comfortable where we're at.
I'm ready to,
Yeah.
So that would be
I have,
PX, SUP, X, SUP, SUP, XP.
correct.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
what I have. So if there's any further discussion, or I'll call for a vote.
I don't like the X's.
I heard you. Okay.
Just read,
Okay,
It's understandable.
yeah,
we can. Bruce, but, yep,
Doesn't the square footage that's allowed in an area have a great recommendation as to whether that can even be done? And in the size that you're worried about?
Depends.
it could, I mean, if you made it 4 square feet,
I
it
don't
would,
understand how you can change something without knowing square footage wise what's allowed in legislative. And say, okay, we're not gonna allow this, when it might not even be allowed if you look at the square footage.
so I think we're gonna do this, and then we'll look at
Square
the,
footage.
Well, I think you would.
dimensions, and then we can always come back to this. So,
I'm just following the same progression that the zoning commission used
Yeah.
in its considerations.
Yeah.
And then we
Okay.
can always go back to
yeah,
some
we can
particular.
always go back, and we do always go back.
We don't always, we can't always go back.
Mark always goes
Mark
back.
cannot always go back.
So, okay, so I'm gonna move on from this one. I'll call for a vote.
Yep.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? That's 1 nay and 3 yeas. Great, thank you. Can you move the next?
Yeah, oh, one other thing,
Proposition.
just before that, I just wanted to address this. Artist Studio Complex Instructional Space Makerspace, this is designed to address
Page,
multiple dense activities.
oh, okay,
So
Where are we?
I
Sorry.
would just recommend changing
43.
artist studio to artists plural, just to make that clear.
oh, plural artists?
Yeah,
Okay,
Artists.
that's almost like just a
an S in there.
typo statement.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, but we'll do that, okay,
Okay,
Which I think is reflected in the definition.
okay.
So the next that I would, well, we have, Mark tagged cannabis.
I
yeah,
did,
And the reason that these are not applicable is because we don't have cannabis laws. So we could make them
yeah,
we could now take care of this, because we're not gonna revise the zoning law.
I think we should, that's
So
my
I think we
proposal,
should.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because
So
as soon
let's
as
do that.
we, then,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as, I want to lift that,
okay,
yep,
because we probably will at some point,
yeah,
at least the lounge, if not, well, either or.
yeah.
So, looking at this, traditionally, these would not be allowed according to the logic of these other uses. These would not be allowed in agriculture,
You're looking at cannabis,
cannabis, either
Okay.
dispensary or lounge. Because we're talking about a commercial site,
okay.
so I'd recommend those be X's. And probably follow the logic of the follow the logic. Let's go. We just, of the farm brewery, I would think almost, right?
mhm,
I proposed SUP in the focused commercial,
Okay,
is that correct? Is that what you're proposing, or,
I haven't gotten that, so you're proposing what, SUP in the focus commercial,
yeah? Oh, you're proposing matching what we just did for the,
potentially,
Hmm. So treating it like alcohol, basically,
yeah. I mean, it would be consistent.
it would be consistent.
The only difference is we're not talking about production, we're talking about use.
Use in retail sale.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, probably following this logic, we wouldn't want it in the denser residentials, right?
Right,
Which would be,
Those three. So Bessemer, West Sladeville, and Center Brookendale, is that what you mean?
probably,
I know there have been some law cases recently where people have taken marijuana smokers to court, even though it's legal, because the smoke is getting into their house.
Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It's really pervasive,
Yes. it is.
strong, or
That's interesting, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
when they've got young
Well,
kids.
that's, then we should take that into consideration, so that would then make X for Bessemer, West Sladeville, Brookendale.
Mhm.
I would say SUP for Sladeville Springs. Based on history.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. So you've got an X for the Hamlet and Center Brooks and Dale.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to imagine if we're going to permit dispensaries or lounges,
Yeah,
then we have to imagine where they're gonna be.
Right, yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Are there code requirements for things like that take care of?
I'm guessing it's
No
just
idea.
normal code for commercial,
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Yeah. There's, I mean, I think it's under a lot of flux right now, and what I've been reading about the marijuana is that there's, in a lot of places, there's no regulation, it's been made legal. Or it's, been decriminalized, but there's no regulation on it, and there's actually a big movement to try to get regulations on it, so like, they know it's being sold. They,
What it is.
what it
Well,
is,
that's-
things
and
like that.
that's- you
We,
weren't
so
here
we're in
when-
such a flux situation right now.
and that's Kate, you said, you weren't here when we discussed
Yeah,
this
no.
before you got on the board, but that's why we didn't opt in.
Okay,
That's why I left
Because
it out.
there were no, it was just the Wild
Little
West.
Wild
it
West,
still is,
Yeah,
I know,
and
But
this doesn't opt us in, this is just,
See, if it comes along.
if it comes along, this is where it would be permitted.
Well, we should find out more about it, because like, the cannabis board has been formed, and I think a lot of the regulations have been made. Jonathan, did you have a comment?
It's a little bit of a tangent, but we talked about a lot of the drug production, alcohol, marijuana. Has anyone ever heard anything or read anything about coffee roasters?
Good point.
I am impacted by a coffee roaster in my neighborhood, and I'm wondering what future zoning is gonna
that's a good point.
affect.
Have you smelled it at your house?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It wakes you up early in the morning.
And it's not, I love the smell of,
Coffee, but the
coffee,
burning is
but
different,
roasting is totally
Totally different thing.
Yeah.
Like burnt bread.
it is,
Sausage chili.
So
I can
that's something to
totally-
consider.
Coffee roasting was not listed as a use by the zoning commission. We could add
we could
it.
add it,
There could be more.
We could
And
add
I like
that.
disturbing that neighborhood.
It's,
So-
that said in the beginning, if it's not permitted, it's prohibited.
Right, well, that's true.
that's a good point.
I can
But
smell,
that's something
I've
that
smelled
we
it
need
on
to-
79.
That's something that actually, you're right, Cal, so if it's not here, it's prohibited.
That's correct.
I think we probably need to add it. Because
I put it on.
Well,
my
it'd be
notes.
grandfathered in,
that would be grandfathered in,
Yeah.
that's right.
That one would be.
Yes.
But
right, but there
if
wouldn't be another one on the
There
other
could
side
be-
of you.
Could be another one.
There
Well,
would be.
Well, they
I
can,
mean, maybe we want another one somewhere.
or maybe they decide they wanna grow and make a bigger.
That's true.
Yeah,
Well, I would think that sooner or later, if any kind of thing that produces smoke would have to be controlled, just like they're gonna do wood.
I think that would, yeah,
But it
Anyway,
should,
just something to put on the table.
No, it's a good point. It's a really good
Tonight
point.
Say
conversation.
you see, let it drive by, you see that.
it's a really good point.
Beside it.
I feel sorry for the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, the point, John, is that, you know, the document doesn't think of everything that's out there. And well, why are we controlling this, putting, you know, restrictions on this, but not that? And yet they're both going on and they're both impacting.
Well, that's why we have a series of multiple reviews so that these things then get delineated.
And we-
Because frankly, I don't recall this ever coming up in the zoning commission.
Coffee roasting hasn't come up.
No, I think it's a really good.
Came up during the discussion of cannabis.
Yeah.
It's
It's a drug, caffeine is a drug.
I mean, I noticed it just driving by at 45 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's,
Me too.
it's pretty bad.
I knew somebody who lives literally right up above it.
Yeah.
In an apartment.
Yeah, because there's 2 or 3 apartments. in
Yeah.
there.
So I would like to ink out at least a draft for these cannabis
Yes,
dispensaries and the lounge.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think where we're going makes sense. I don't know, I mean, I put SUP for focused commercial. I see it's, yeah.
I mean, I would be fine to put permitted and focused commercial. There's no reason not to put permitted and focused commercial.
Just a P.
Sure. I mean, it fits the definition of focus. I mean, I see no
Yeah.
reason that would need to have an SUP review.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with P. I get your rationale.
I can see SUP elsewhere, but one question is what you want to do vis-a-vis ag rural in terms of cannabis dispensary and or lounge.
Right.
And I would think it would either be X or SUP.
Our locale's gonna start growing.
Yeah, but that's different from dispensing.
Yeah.
But it well could be that somebody who's growing would want to dispense it on site.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
no different selling sunflower seeds out of the barn door, right?
So maybe it should be SUP.
It should be allowed.
For both of those, a lounge too.
I mean, nobody's consuming it, they're just going.
Well, assuming that the lounge would be on site of the dispensary.
Well, that's, I
I
don't know. I mean,
don't think
I
it's,
wouldn't want to be living right next to one. That's the thing. I mean,
so you'd prefer it be in the ag rural.
I just don't think it should be right in the middle of a residential area.
Right,
Right.
right.
And so,
So is there consensus that we would put SUP for ag rural for both of those? Is that,
I'd be fine with it.
okay?
I mean, if it's grown, it's gonna be grown in ag rural.
Yep.
And it might be,
Even the harvesting of those smell, I mean,
yeah, sure, yeah. So then we have Hamlet, we have Slaterville Springs, we haven't decided on, and Center Brooktondale, I guess would be an X.
I would think.
And would you say Hamlet, then Hamlet, Slaterville, given its history, would be SUP?
That's what I have written down.
considering the size of the hamlet,
Of Slaterville Springs.
yeah.
You,
You got the land up there off Hamilton Road. You know, again, trying to think where something like that would go. Might go.
Probably right out here somewhere, frankly.
Just-
at the town hall.
Well, right across in the old ping pong, in the old tennis. Well, whatever. We'll start to be serious.
So that makes sense to me. The one thing I don't have anything for Hamlet Brooktondale.
I had an X, Brookendale,
I think an X.
Oh, okay.
for the density.
So there's 4 X's. Beesimer, Slaterville, no, Beesimer, West Slaterville,
West Slaterville,
Mhm.
Brooktondale, Center Brooktondale.
Senator
Yeah.
Brookendale. P for focus commercial, SUP for ag, and SUP for Slaterville.
That's what I have. Yep.
And that can make sense because Slaterville Springs opens up into ag.
Okay,
So,
good. Can I call a vote?
Yeah.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
We would go back up a few lines, if this is okay, Tim.
Sure.
Why is there an X on bakeries in ag rural? What was the thinking on that?
so the thinking on that was large commercial. The zoning commission wanted to discourage large commercial from. So bakeries, in this case, it would be not a home business bakery, but a commercial bakery. So that was their thinking. I mean, they were pretty consistent in worrying about that. On the other hand,
'Cause
I was
guess-
I was gonna come to bakery too, in a way, because,
I mean, I'm thinking more, what would likely happen would be small commercial, not,
right,
you know, just, and again, it goes to, you know,
That's
the,
what I say.
I mean, I always thought, I have that actually circled also.
I
always
have
thought
it
that-
circled too,
I
but
thought that
I think that's
bakery
because-
for ag rural would make sense,
yeah,
bakeries are very positive things and you just like to have one everywhere.
and they're ag related,
yeah, very much
So-
so.
so I'd be,
Partial to bakeries,
I'm all for,
especially if they do croissants.
you know, I'm all for.
I think
Making
bakeries
Just like
are
the-
naturally going to. You know, I think business owners would want to have their bakery. In a commercial or where there's some focused.
I mean, I had more questions about the bakery in some of the condensed residential areas than I did in the ag.
Let's see, it's SPR everywhere.
It's SPR everywhere.
Except,
That's what I have.
But again, you know, any of these large commercials, you've got trucks coming in and out, you've got
yeah,
Yeah,
roads to worry about, you've got lighting, bakers start cooking early,
You're
So-
speaking to
large.
the cases where in the hamlets, residential hamlets. is
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
concerned
they're just
about.
thinking about,
yeah,
I tend to think of a bakery as a nice little shop to go into, and
yeah,
get a croissant, but they can get really, really big.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they can just be like a normal little cottage or house too.
yeah,
and of course, some of that is controlled by square footage.
right,
I mean, in the
so,
controlled by,
square footage,
the square footage, right,
when we get to that.
um,
And that could be a good way of doing it. I mean, I have a couple of recommendations for square footage that would just differentiate more some of the areas.
So for bakery, is there a consensus to add it up in some way to ag rural? Is that what people think?
that's what I'd like to see.
I'm fine with ag rural. I guess the question is whether we would want to exit in a couple of the residential areas.
I would exit in a couple of residential areas. There's just no room for it, I mean, it's just anyway, trying to be a Speedsville. Again, it's a square footage question, you know,
Right, so maybe we just leave it in and look at the square footage later.
Or we can come back to it
Mhm.
if need be.
So I added as SPR in the ag rural, right? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
Just not need to be all the same all the way across.
okay.
I think I would like to come back to it, but this makes sense.
Yeah,
Do you want to vote on what we changed now or just come back to it?
Rather come back to it
Okay,
because there's no use in voting twice, you know.
No, we do it all the time.
Just like-
I know, but we can minimize it,
we can try not to.
right, yeah.
Okay. Any other items on that page?
Um,
I'm good with that page.
Okay. You have more on your list?
can I ask real quick, about the bed and breakfast and short-term rentals? You know, the Airbnbs. Was that discussed? I know there's been a big problem in Fruitville and,
Well, I mean, it was discussed, so the zoning commission
Yeah.
wasn't inclined to be concerned right now about
Okay.
short-term rentals.
okay,
I think it's fair to say that there was unanimous feelings that bed and breakfasts are kind of part parcel to the Caroline
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
we.
it was more
want to be
the-
encouraged.
the Airbnb
Yeah,
problems in Freeville were
yeah.
Airbnb.
I think the
houses
zoning
outdoors.
commission just didn't feel that they were of a significant tilt right now to be.
Okay.
I totally agree with that too.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem for Caroline, so.
And that could end up being even not a zoning issue, but a special law.
At some point,
I mean, a lot of the other
Right.
towns are having special laws
Yeah.
about them.
Right,
okay. I just wanted to make sure it was thought about.
Right.
I figured it happened.
I had done one for event facility.
Yeah, I did too.
For some reason, it has, the board zoning commission recommended SUP for focus commercial, and I just would think that that would be a P. Flat permitted.
event facility,
Yeah, but almost a definition of a focused commercial.
Yeah. So I'd recommend changing that to a P.
I'm okay with that, I would think. Is that your only suggestion for a
Yeah,
facility?
yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Electric charging station. Vehicle charging station. I was wondering about. It's in no way goes against the grain of the zoning commission. But wondering why we wouldn't permit it potentially in ag rural.
I totally agree with that. Yeah,
Because if we get to the stage, people are gonna need access. In rural areas to charging stations.
and that could be a site depending on where a substation is or something like that.
It could also be a cost saving
I also,
measure for rural residents who don't want to put in the electricity. But would have access near, I mean, this is down the road problem.
Well,
No.
especially if you have fast charging,
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about fast chargers, right?
because you need some serious juice for that.
Yeah, and the fast charging stations. I don't know, I mean, it's hard to see into the future. The fast charging stations right now, like with Mirabito, is a gas station. And so it looks like a gas station, because you've got the gas stations.
oh, where you have a bunch of,
And then you've got a bunch of things.
Right.
So
That's a good point.
really well lit, it's,
Yep.
big, bright,
that's true.
big.
So-
That's why that would be more like why they.
That's probably,
So maybe
yeah.
that's good thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm fine with
Tesla's
that.
doing something a little different, like in a parking lot, just
Yeah.
having 10 lined up.
Yeah.
I can't see what they'd be looking like, if the gas station wasn't there, but my guess is still really brightly lit and.
I mean, you're the person most likely to be
I use
aware of
them,
this.
yeah.
So
So,
the testing stations.
So I would
Trader
draw
Joe's.
that, I would draw that recommendation.
okay,
Yeah. I agree with that.
Next one I have is school private.
Yeah.
I know the next one I have, no, the next one I have is, hold it.
What is the next one?
No, I was misreading my notes, I'm sorry. So I have to go back, sorry, I was looking at color coding instead of my.
I have a quick one for daycare center.
Yeah,
So it's SUP in ag rural and SPR everywhere else. And I
It
would
just
just,
seems like it would be all the same all the way across.
yeah.
I agree, I agree.
Why would it be SUP in the ag rural?
Yeah.
Protecting-
Special use permit.
Protect the,
Child care, yeah.
protect the cows from the children.
I
yeah,
agree.
you never know.
Okay, so make it
Okay.
SPR. Okay.
SPR. So that, at the top of that one, on page 44, there's the brewery, winery, cidery, or distillery, not part of a farm operation. And they're all SPRs. Shouldn't that be agreeing with the farm brewery, farm winery, farm
Oh, wow,
cidery,
yeah.
and
it's
farm
kinda-
distillery?
So those other, oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking fully about all this.
Where's the farm brewery?
The farm brewery is on page 42,
Yep, back to where we were earlier.
Right.
right? And now
That's
we're
right.
in, on page 44. It's kind of funny. I mean, how would you have a farm brewery in downtown?
So are you saying, would we make it just parallel, like exactly the same?
I would think.
I kind of would too.
Just trying to get my head around how, I don't know, a farm cidery would be without a farm down in Hamlet somewhere, but.
Well, I
Maybe
think it was farm cidery,
Wine
it's
tasting
like
store.
Southfield Cidery where they got the apple trees, or, you know, I mean, I was trying to think of
Yeah,
specific examples.
right, I would think.
You
of a
got an
farm, but-
orchard.
Right, but how would that happen in a hamlet?
Right,
That doesn't make sense,
um,
because you can't fit the orchard into the hamlet.
well, like, the hamlet of Speedsville is currently structured
That's true.
where there's that,
Mhm.
you know, there's that one field in back up,
Mhm.
oh, damn it. Molnix's.
Mhm.
You know, you could have apple trees there with the back to the back of the barn. But I mean, you know, we're maybe bringing up outliers, but it is possible.
Yeah, this is a funny one.
Yeah.
Bruce, do you even remember?
I don't know.
The distinction?
No,
Because
I mean, I think the distinction was farm, which is why it's permitted in ag rural,
Because
as opposed to
when I
the
think of
other,
6
would be
Mile
like a
Creek,
store,
I think of that as a farm
Right.
winery.
a farm.
Even though they
winery.
buy grapes.
They
there,
buy grapes, right?
But they still, you know.
They do grow some
They
there.
make a concerted
Yeah.
effort
Right.
at growing,
That's clearly a farm winery,
yes, I think so.
and the others are,
Yeah, just go once in a while in the evening and hang out.
I mean, I frankly, now that we think about this, I would be fine making it just consistent. with-
Identical, right?
Yeah.
Identical.
same as the
Yeah,
other ones,
okay.
Same as. the
I
farm.
don't see why they wouldn't be, because they would be the same thing,
Right.
except for the ag part.
Be permitted.
Yep.
Not permitted,
Good catch on that.
so.
That's interesting, so.
That would mean,
That would mean
Permitted.
EX SUP.
Focus commercial.
X SUP. X SUP X.
Did the reply from?
They all-
Good night.
good night, thanks.
Good night, Tom.
Jonathan, thanks for coming.
XP.
Did the ag markets reply have any? They don't remember.
SUP is,
Should they have anything to say about farm wineries, cideries?
no,
Okay,
I don't, it was all definitions, right?
it's just the definitions.
Okay,
That's a good catch.
yeah, it is.
This is why the process
It's good.
of
Yeah.
layered decking works, you know?
Yeah.
Lots of eyes on
So
it.
on page 44 of the table, can I call a vote on that change and the SPR for daycare center? Or do you have more changes to make on that page?
One other one that I had is convenience store, page 44, that's the only one. Another
page-
two.
It's on page,
So-
oh, yeah.
So commercial recreation facility outdoor,
Yeah, why is that not allowed in the hamlet of Brooksondale, but everywhere else?
I don't know, and I mean, one reason not to allow it,
Uh-huh,
I mean, I think there's a distinction between indoor and outdoor. Outdoor, I mean, this is commercial recreation facility.
Okay.
So it could mean lighting. It could be noise, activity,
there
parking.
used to be a,
So I was gonna recommend,
I think you'd either want to expand the X's or take it out.
right,
Right.
I think that might be thinking back to like a go-kart or the dirt
well,
bike
it's not,
races they used to have.
they
in
clarified
Brooksondale.
it that it's non-motorized.
Oh, okay,
But I
Where?
was gonna suggest taking it out of the focused, taking the outdoor one out of the focused residential. I mean, it just depends on what this would end up being. So I mean, you can, so what, a baseball field, a batting cage,
Yeah. Ice rink? No. Yeah,
There used to be
Could
an
be.
ice
that'd be
rink.
indoor.
That would
There
be
used to be an
indoor.
ice
yeah.
rink in-
Driving range.
Yeah, there used to be one else. out there,
Archery
too.
range.
Russian, they flooded it, frozen.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
those are
there used to be a
relatively
baseball
innocuous.
field in the hamlet of Brooksondale.
Yeah,
Soccer
that's-
fields.
That's pretty curious why Brookendale is separate.
And these were added, the recreation facilities things were added at the last minute,
I don't see.
they were
at the very
Yeah,
last minute,
That's interesting.
Oh,
Where do you see motorized?
in the definitions, as
Oh,
I
okay.
recall. They were
So
added,
that was out at the
they were
last
added at the
minute?
very last minute.
Why is that? Do you remember?
Yeah, just out of kind of, I think somebody made a comment in a public hearing about. We don't have enough recreation facilities.
Oh, I
The
remember that.
committee
Okay.
said, oh,
they had that in.
Okay,
let's add more recreation facilities. I think that was it.
So what's the suggestion for the proposal for outdoor?
Commercial recreation facility, comma, outdoor.
Right, what's the recommendation? Any thoughts?
I mean, they Xed Central Brookendale, and I would then X,
no, they
That's-
Xed Hamlet Brooksondale.
that's what I meant, that's what I
Okay.
meant. And I would guess following that logic, then X Bessemer and West Sladeville.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do something like that too.
Okay,
I'd either do that or SUPM, so.
Yeah, I'd go with more the SUP mall, even though it doesn't make sense in the Hamlet of Brookendale, but why is anybody gonna wanna put a commercial recreation facility in the center of Brookendale? Because they're gonna want, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you want. So you could do some,
A,
rock
I
climbing
just
down
like-
the cliffs.
Yeah.
how about
Something
see, that would be motorized if you had
Zip line?
A zip line. You could
a
have a
zip,
zip
you
line
could have
by
zip
the
line.
gorge.
yeah, where the old
Where the
trestle.
old trestle was.
Yeah. It'd be historic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the recommendation then?
Oh, I thought we recommended we zip line. Okay,
I'd like to recommend we just SUP mall.
okay.
Just for, I
That's
mean, it
fine.
just seems odd to me that,
That's
you know,
fine.
where we just have one X in a whole line.
I
It just-
agree, I
just-
agree, doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
That's why I was thinking of more X's, but I'm
Yeah.
fine with this.
Well, which, yeah.
okay. So,
One of the lines seems-
so that's 3 lines that we've changed on this page. Shall we cut them?
And then I wanted to talk about convenience store. Also, so a lot of these were last minute changes that
Oh,
changed the
Yeah.
balance of residential and commercial
okay,
tilts. And I was gonna suggest.
I see where you're
seeing
going.
Convenience stores in Sladeville, West Sladeville and Bessemer.
Well, there's convenience stores, and there's convenience, I mean, there's like
Yeah.
a gas station convenience store.
Hey,
Yeah. Oh, sorry, there's a gas station convenience store, so a commercial store, convenience store. I'm trying to, like, so like Speedsville had that little shop,
Right.
right? That's different than the convenience store that's a gas station down in Sladeville. I mean, so can somebody? define what they're
Dandy
talking
Mart's
about?
more of a formula business, whereas you're, yeah,
Yeah, so,
and yet it's commercial, but.
right, so I was wondering what it means.
Well, you could even imagine probably like. Sweet Caroline could be understood as a convenience store. Potentially, something like that, and that,
maybe.
Yeah,
it could be,
yeah.
Convenience store / mini mart. A retail establishment selling primarily food products, household items, newspapers and magazines, candy and beverages. And limited amount of prepared foods for off-premises consumption. May also include the selling of fuel and fuel pumps, islands.
So it sounds like a small scale formula business.
yep,
Could be formula or not, but yeah, well, most
Yeah.
of those are formula, aren't they?
and that's why I recommended X's in Bessemer and West Sladeville.
Well, I wouldn't mind it, no, I mean,
Convenience store, you're suggesting
so. Because it's a convenience store slash possible gas station, I mean, like,
Bessemer, West Sladeville.
in our riparian buffer zone, we can't put gasoline tanks in, right? I just don't think it was mentioned. I mean, there used to be gas tanks down there, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, so,
Nope. So
Did we
just
talk
those
about
two,
fuel tanks? Did
Hamlet,
we talk about fuel tanks?
Those seem to be the most consolidated
Okay.
Sladeville.
recommended residential.
I thought we had
Huh?
3 residential hamlets that kind of.
Brookendale.
Oh, yeah, don't know what happened.
I
to them
mean, why
before
not?
then.
I would be fine with exiting that Brookendale, yeah.
I,
Just consistent with what we've done.
yeah,
I guess the
that's
reason
different
not
than-
to is because the markets has always been, there's always been a convenience store. No.
Which,
that's Center Brookendale, right?
Center Brookendale.
that's Center Brooksondale.
Yeah. Center Brookendale.
I mean, I have a hard time with that definition, including the gas station. I guess, so,
Why is that?
because I don't want,
I mean, it's just what it is, right? That's what convenience stores,
well, I mean, but if we're okay in convenience stores in a riparian zone, I mean, and it's a gas station.
oh, okay.
Right,
Right.
or it's a.
There's
it's a convenience
also-
store with
well, see,
the
I'm-
lighting and
but-
things like this, and,
But then there's a use on the next page, fuel, gasoline station.
okay,
So that's,
that
you
would
know,
overlap,
that would determine whether the convenience store has a gas station or not,
okay,
in my mind.
okay.
So. And that brings up the last thing I wanna, what do you think? Cal?
Are they a convenience store selling gasoline or gasoline stores?
The gas station
Yeah.
selling.
A gasoline bar.
Yeah. No, I mean, just.
When you get a soft drink on the road, you always go to a gas station, right? Convenience store.
I mean, you rarely stop and just.
So we don't get distracted, just for convenience stores, so I'm recommending exits on Hamlet, Bessemer and West Sladeville.
Sorry, say it again?
Recommending exits, what? Hamlet, Bessemer and West Sladeville. For convenience store.
And you can see that was reflected in the zoning commission's thinking because those two had SUP,
Right,
whereas the others
right,
didn't.
right.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I could see that, I mean, it's, I will say, you know. I live right next to Brookton's, these used to be the TNT. And it was, it's great to have a convenience store, right?
absolutely.
Nearby if you want to, want to encourage people walking, so it's, but that's different than,
Mhm.
you know, if you, a box store, you know, so.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
different.
That's a different thing, yeah, okay, okay,
I could go either way on this one, but
okay.
Cal?
No opinion.
Okay, well,
Well, I made a motion, so we can just, is there a second?
I'll second it.
seconded by Kate, further discussion before I call for a vote. So Tim has proposed X on those Bessemer and West Sladeville for convenience stores.
Dandy Mart will be very happy.
Who will?
Dandy
Dandy
Mart will be
Mart.
very happy that we're
Yes.
eliminating competition.
Um,
Well, anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And the only other one on that page I have is,
I didn't,
daycare center.
Which one?
The
The center,
bottom
the center.
44, Daycare center. The zoning commission had made a distinction between ag, rural and everything else.
yeah, we did that one.
Oh, we already did that
Yep.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we made that SPR,
Okay,
right?
Get like-
yes, that's getting late.
Okay, great, thank you. So and then we changed on the outdoor recreational, we made a SUP on the Hamlet of Brookendale.
Yep.
Good night, Bruce.
Um,
And then on the brewery, we made it consistent with the same as farm
Yes,
brewery stuff.
yes.
So all in favor of those changes?
uh,
Or did I get a second? Like, anyway, so seconded by Tim, and then all in favor,
Aye.
unanimous, so.
On commercial kitchen. I mean, I guess to me, it's sort of a specific example. What if I built a commercial kitchen as part of the farm, but also wanted to like rent it out to people that wanted to use it? So would I be, you know, that sort of, so it's a commercial kitchen associated with a farm, and it's also a commercial kitchen that's kind of,
It falls right here. I think it would be as,
SPR,
yeah. It would be,
permitted as farm operation, SPR.
but see, what if I had it, it was both?
what if you had what?
If it was not part of a farm because I was
Oh, because
renting
you're renting it out. But
some
it's-
of it out, but I'm also using it myself.
Well, then you just get an SPR for both.
I think it would still be the
Or
same.
I just
I
want to
think
leave
it'd
it
still be a
permitted.
farm. Wouldn't it be still a farm? I don't know.
I don't know.
I
guess-
don't know what the ag law
I mean,
says.
and some of the notes I've gotten, of course, things become kind of a mixed use.
No, I think
Right.
the logic of this is, the reason that they put that there is if something was no longer a farm operation. But then someone wanted to go in
And put in a
and
commercial
put in a
kitchen.
commercial kitchen.
That you
That
would-
seems to be something we would probably want to encourage.
Yeah,
you want a site plan review.
To reuse.
Right.
Yeah, but you see what I'm
Site plan
saying
review.
is just, you know, what if something, I'm kind of doing I have to put myself in, you know.
No,
it's
I
kind of a mixed
hear what you're
use.
saying, yeah.
And would I be permitted or would I have to have
I think
do
it
a
would,
special, not special use permit, site plan review?
I mean, I would just assume that that's part of a farm operation.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
It's just part of the farmer operation.
Okay,
So no changes there?
well, or just or should that be recorded as, you know, mixed uses are permitted?
I don't know, I mean,
Is it,
I mean, the reason that they made that distinction is there would be no reason for a farm operation to need to get a review
yeah.
to have a commercial
The
kitchen as
kitchen
part of
or-
a farm operation.
Yeah,
If it's not part of the farm operation, there would be a logic to have a review to find out what the implications are for the.
just to
area,
guide
to
the
guide the
development of it.
okay,
So I don't really have a problem with that.
okay.
Yeah.
The only other one, oh, we did that. We did daycare center, right?
We did,
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
we did daycare, we did event
Okay.
facility,
yeah.
changing to P for focused commercial.
So we're down to fuel electronic vehicle charging station. Did we finalize that one?
Did we make any changes?
I don't think we
I
did.
don't
I
think
think we
did.
decided not
No,
to.
we
Yeah,
kind of
we
talked
backed
about.
off,
Okay, yeah,
we
we
decided it
talked
was
about
okay.
Then there's funeral home,
That's weird.
which for some reason they put SUP in all the residential areas, which makes no sense.
Oh, wow,
Right,
oh, I see,
So I was gonna recommend X Bessemer, X West Saylorville, and X Central Brookendale. If there's ever a funeral home
yeah,
in Centerville Spring,
I
and
mean,
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're
that's
thinking,
really
you
weird.
know, like where Bang's funeral home is, it does look like somebody's house, right?
yeah,
So,
but it's in
it always has been that way.
I mean, I'm just thinking if you're gonna add a funeral home, where are you gonna add it? Do you wanna add it in a residential district, or do you gonna add it in a mixed
correct,
use district?
yeah,
Most people die.
Where?
You can just wheel the cart down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was gonna recommend X Bessemer, X West Sladeville, X Central Brookendale, just following the same logic that we've used.
X, Center, Brookendale, you said, okay. I'm certainly okay with that.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Okay,
Vote.
if there's no further discussion, call for a vote,
Aye.
all in favor? Aye, opposed, great, okay,
So the fuel and the gasoline, we're just leaving it as,
so let me hang on here and see what the time is, it's 8:52, so we've got 8 minutes, I'd like to stick to that, so.
So if you finish this page, fuel. and the
Do we have any
gasoline.
say over government or institutional offices or facilities or uses?
Apparently,
We've Xed it,
But
but
frankly not,
yeah, that's what I,
but we do get to do site plan review.
Yes.
So,
so that ought to be, the X ought to go from ag rural. I mean, cause I'm just thinking of McCormick,
right?
we have no say. in
We have
what-
no say.
yeah,
And frankly, our highway barn, we can put it wherever the damn well we want to.
Yeah.
I mean, government facilities are not controlled by zoning.
Yeah.
so Cal, you're suggesting putting SPR in ag
Or
rural
just, yeah, just this, all the same all the way across, just,
to SPR.
That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
Okay, I agree with that. I'm not quite sure. I bet there was some rationale though.
Yeah.
I don't know, because we don't wanna put the,
Yeah, they
It
just don't wanna
doesn't-
put big stuff in ag, you know.
we don't wanna put big stuff in
Right,
ag,
right.
Oh, I see.
right? We
I
didn't put
see.
town barns in ag.
I mean, actually, this is
Yeah.
institutional offices, so I would
Right.
stick with it.
We'll stick with X,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I would
Because
too.
not just government, it's institutional
Right.
offices.
I
They
think that makes
didn't
sense.
want an office
Okay.
park in the middle of ag.
okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
But
I don't
I
know.
guess I was just focused on the governmental
Yeah.
offices.
And the governmental might as well not even be there because.
I'm still thinking about your fuel and gasoline stations in the hamlets, or down,
Okay,
yeah.
So Kate, you're focusing on fuel gasoline station?
I am,
So did I
yeah, I
float
saw,
by email my proposal?
I did,
Okay, so what do you think?
I think, I'm open to that.
Okay,
you mean totally banning them? I'm not, I think that's unrealistic.
Okay.
I bet it's not. I bet it's not. That's my, bet. But I don't know if we want to do, I mean, I can go either
It's the
way.
only gas station right now in the
Yeah.
town,
And
right?
then-
If it closes.
Yeah.
If it closes, proposing not allowing it to be replaced anywhere else. I
wouldn't
think
wanna-
that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because we don't have the infrastructure right now to support the alternative.
Okay, maybe it's premature, or whatever.
I think it's
We could-
premature.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
But I am concerned about, maybe this is already regulated, just, I don't wanna know, putting, fuel tanks, you think about what happened, what's that little hamlet on the way to Trumansburg?
No, I know, Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville, right? With the gasoline
Yeah.
leak from there and ruining the water.
Yeah.
But
For
that's,
so many
yeah,
people, that's a big concern, and. I know. Yeah,
that's concern anywhere.
it's a concern anywhere, but I'm just saying that lighting and end up having problems with the gasoline station over in Lansing, that they're putting in, that's huge.
Mhm.
Next to another gas station that's already huge.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I agree.
So, I'm just wondering about all these being. I'm just wondering why there aren't a few more X's there,
Well. So let's just go down the list, because it's a
Okay.
good question.
Mhm.
So go to Hamlet Sleepville Springs.
mhm.
I think it's kind of
Well, that
logical
makes
why
sense,
that's.
right, there's already one there,
Yeah.
right,
Mostly.
Caroline Center, Caroline and Speedville, they might,
Speedsville,
need something
Speedsville,
out there.
Speedsville used to have gas.
Yeah,
yeah, well, yeah, so did Brooksondale, yeah,
not that long ago.
So I could see leaving
Okay.
Speedsville because. It's far enough away from
Far enough,
everything that it
okay.
could be a hub also for the other county,
Could be useful.
yeah. Brooktondale. I could easily see Central Brooktondale being an X,
I could see that too.
especially for the.
I would
for
actually
creek
like to
reasons.
see the center and the hamlet being an X.
Wouldn't be unopen to that,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Both the Brookendales, right? Kate,
Yep,
okay. So
okay,
that was put forward by Kate.
Yep.
Do we get a second yet?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Tim. Can I call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, great. Okay,
We did funeral home. We did Governmental name,
3 minutes.
health, medical clinic laboratory. I mean, I had the same logic in terms of commercial emphasis
Yeah,
as before,
Mm-hmm.
so I was gonna recommend Bessemer and West Sladeville X.
hmm,
I think their thinking was probably like an office park or something like that, but maybe that's not right. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, I'm just thinking in terms of commercial versus residential balance.
Mhm. So you're proposing Bessemer and
West
Westlake.
Sladeville.
hmm.
Is there a second to that?
Second. So. Further discussion?
So Bessemer and West Sladeville will be changed to prohibited
Right.
Well, what
from
about,
SPR.
yeah, well, what about the ag rural? I guess I'm thinking this health medical clinic laboratory, I'm thinking of like a big expanse, like they've got,
From the
up near
logic.
the airport, you know, like,
Right,
Brown Road there. that's-
yeah, like a big parking lot and then a big
I mean, I
facility,
think,
like the health department on Brown Road.
I'm still thinking Mary Tinker.
yeah,
Yeah, well, this is,
I think
yeah,
that was why it's SPR and ag. rural.
okay, all right, that makes sense. I mean,
So-
yeah, Mary Tanker is different than
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I know, but
a
and
huge
that's not
facility.
coming back.
no, it's
Probably
not,
Yeah.
not a chance.
Do we vote on this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Okay, that was just 2 X's, right?
Yep.
Okay,
See 59 on stop.
Okay.
I had 2 more right here.
2 more?
Yeah, I had industrial use light. The same logic for Bessemer and West Sladeville.
I agree with that.
Wait, which one was that, sorry? Industrial use light?
Yeah, page
Okay.
45, fourth
Mhm.
one, fifth one from the bottom.
Any others?
And the other one I had was, I don't know why this is here, small mine, small size mine.
Is permitted everywhere? I
It's
think that's,
permitted
I think
everywhere.
that's,
What
so,
does it mean?
did you look it up?
What is a small mine?
Less than 500 tons.
Yeah. Was it 500?
I think so, I think I checked what
Moderate size,
the
large.
division of mines.
Okay,
Mine small. A mine that removes less than 250 cubic yards of earth in 12 consecutive months.
Yeah, and cubic yards, well, ton and a half.
How much is that? Is that a dump? Is that?
why is that permitted? What are we mining?
Well,
It's
Gravel.
usually like
Okay.
soil
How
or
much is that?
gravel or
Gallons
something
in
like
the
that.
dump truck?
I mean, cubic yard,
For small. For small,
like what they call a 1 ton truck, that like the small ones that the town has.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, that's why they did that. Just leave it. I withdraw.
Okay. I
yeah,
think
no,
that-
they put the mines in
I
because
remember they
the,
talked a lot about this.
the gravel pit wanted to know about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, the gravel.
They
pit,
asked-
I don't know.
Or just, you know, there used, up Hartford Road, you know, there's some deposits of gravel, and there was Marion's, they had.
Right,
I mean, I just thinking, you know, town history,
I mean, that's such a small amount, it's just
Yeah.
not gonna matter.
Right.
yeah.
You have another proposal?
No,
Okay, great.
that page.
Shall
Mark,
we? Yeah,
we
Jesse.
need a second for the industrial use and a
oh,
vote.
okay.
And we haven't voted on that yet.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Jesse.
So I made the proposal.
So that was Tim. I'll second that. And are we ready to vote?
But I thought we weren't gonna change it.
Changes
No,
are
we're
X
talking
in
mine.
Bessemer.
Industrial use light.
Industrial use light here, just take it out of the residential areas.
My only question was whether there were other hamlets where would want X's. But then I might revisit it.
I'd like to see it, in Brookendale.
It would make sense. I mean,
You'd
it'd be
like to see it
consistent.
allowed.
No, Xed.
It would be consistent with what we've been doing.
Okay,
Like to see
so
it Xed out and make,
in where?
in Brookendale.
What about if you're cleaning out the creeks? Is that mining gravel small scale?
No,
We're not working on that.
We're not on that, we're in industrial use light.
Yeah, we quit that.
We can't,
We can go back.
you can't,
Well, but these things overlap.
no, but you can't, anyway,
But it's,
we'll get there. Hold on, so
I don't
let's,
know, I
we
mean,
is
had
that
to back up
industry?
and go to industrial light,
I don't know.
industrial use light.
Well, there's, maybe it makes a difference. I don't know. I just see
What is
some of these things
industrial use like?
overlapping.
I'm looking it up. That's why we have a definitions.
Right.
Industrial use light, any non-retail commercial use or industry operated is not classified as that is not classified as an industrial use. Heavy, industrial use heavy, generally including manufacturing or maintenance operations conducted wholly within one or more structures where any process is used to alter the nature, size, or shape of articles or raw materials. Blah, 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 where articles are assembled, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I see.
Maybe cleaning gravel out of the creek is maintenance, not mining.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Well, so that would be like,
I don't think that's
That's like a
industrial.
cabinet
That's
shop.
not
So we're
industrial
talking light industrials, like a cabinetry shop or.
Yeah.
something like that.
Something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
this is manufacturing
Mhm.
within a structure.
Right,
And of course.
Used to
this-
alter the
this
nature,
is for
size,
the-
shape.
This is for the future, not for the present,
right,
Yeah,
right.
assuming there's going to be denser residential.
Right.
I should read this by way of illustration. By way of illustration and not limitation, these may include indoor and outdoor warehousing and storage, smaller scaled printing, publish and bookbinding operations, research and development facilities, utilizing office spaces, indoor scientific labs, wood shops, and small product assembly businesses. Makes sense.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So we've got industrial use light, X on Bessemer, West Sladeville,
Mhm.
and Brookendale.
Right.
Central Brookendale.
Go
Is
ahead,
it-
Brookendale.
Huh?
You think it should be Central Brookendale?
He proposed
I
Brookendale.
propose Brookendale.
Okay,
But then I was thinking, well, further down. I could see some light uses,
right,
and since it's gonna get reviewed,
right.
I would be okay with an SUP. Versus,
Now, this is a case where size, interaction with
Yeah,
size
yeah,
might.
yeah.
right,
make a
yeah, well,
difference.
that's the thing,
So that'll be for our next meeting.
Let's just stop here.
Yeah.
Okay,
9 o'clock.
Okay,
Let's stop here.
so do you want to vote on what we have here or leave it?
No, let's leave it and come back.
Come back,
Because we're
okay.
unresolved.
So that's,
Industrial.
That's already
that's,
9:05.
we're tabling this one, Jesse,
Yeah.
that. So. Table,
So we're stopping at industrial use light.
that's
yeah,
right. Here,
great, and
so.
our next meeting is our regular meeting next week on Wednesday, so, we'll
Okay.
continue,
Continue this
Then-
and go into area and dimensions if we have time,
right,
which we probably will.
I think we will,
Yeah, that would be good.
Thank
Yeah.
great,
Good work.
yeah, great, so, I will. Offer a motion to adjourn, second by Cal, all in favor?
Bye.
Aye, great.
Yeah, I dug a hole with my siblings, but for the day.